Will the U.S. military really rush to Taiwan? The Russian-Ukrainian war is on the rise. Moreover, the similar situation between Taiwan and Ukraine is becoming more and more prominent. Among them, the role of the United States is the most important. As a result, it once again aroused heated discussions on whether the U.S. military should rush to Taiwan. In a video call between Biden and Xi Jinping on March 18, the former reiterated that the U.S. policy towards Taiwan has not changed. He also stressed that the United States continues to oppose any unilateral changes to the status quo. Accordingly, if the CCP uses military force due to Taiwan's independence, for example, violating the red line of the Anti-Secession Law in 2005, that is Taiwan changing the status quo. Just as Qiu Taisan, chairman of the Mainland Affairs Council, once said, both sides of the strait should recognize each other's sovereignty. Or the 2024 Paris Olympics, Taiwan's name rectification campaign has been launched, etc. If the U.S. military's position to help Taiwan is relatively weak, and will put the United States in the dilemma of whether to intervene. Therefore, it is difficult to obtain the consent of the United States. Looking back, some members of the DPP had planned to propose at the National Party Congress in July 2018. Since the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, it has participated in all international competitions under the name of Taiwan Team. But the case was withdrawn before the meeting. At that time, Party Chairman Tsai Ing-wen also strictly prohibited party members from participating in the joint operation of the case. This is in contrast to earlier during the National Assembly session. Several generations of the Democratic Progressive Party had intended to amend Article 4 of the Constitution from inherent territory to existing territory. But after the proposal was withdrawn, it was the same. It was later confirmed that it was indeed caused by strong pressure from the United States. The United States recently rejected an arms sales proposal proposed by Taiwan, and restricting Taiwan's international participation in Palau. It seems to be suppressing the arrogance of Taiwan independence. This is naturally also related to Biden taking the initiative to call Xi Jinping, in order to create some friendly atmosphere. Conversely, if Taiwan is not independent but the CCP is still armed, that is Beijing first to change the status quo. Therefore, the legitimacy of the U.S. assistance to Taiwan is stronger. But the risk of a U.S.-China conflict remains high. Due to the war between Russia and Ukraine, Russia's national strength was seriously injured. The Pentagon has revealed that. In the new 2022 edition of the National Defense Strategy Report, the U.S. still sees China as a long-term systemic challenge. Therefore, if something really happens in the Taiwan Strait in the future, let the two sides fight each other. This is a good way to consume China's national strength. Then why should the U.S. rush to help? Just provide the weapon. At the same time, it can also sanction China afterwards. No need to go to war with China. Is it worthwhile to sacrifice only Taiwan? Isn't this all similar to the current situation in Ukraine? Of course, does the United States rush to aid Taiwan? It also depends on the internal and external conditions of the United States at that time. If the situation inside and outside the United States was stable and sound at that time, the chances of helping Taiwan will naturally increase. On the contrary, for example, if the United States breaks out a fierce terrorist attack or participates in a war abroad, I am struggling to cope with myself. Then the chance of rushing to Taiwan will be reduced. Of course, Beijing will choose or create an environment that is more favorable to itself, to avoid direct conflict with the United States. Finally, the US always vague cross-strait policy. still the best option for the US side. If the US side says, when something happens on both sides of the strait, we will definitely help Taiwan, the Taiwan side will have no fear. It will definitely fuel the arrogance of Taiwan independence, otherwise. If the US side declares in advance that it refuses to help Taiwan, regarding the attitude of the United States towards Ukraine, then Beijing will definitely increase its unification efforts. This is not what the United States likes. Therefore, it can be seen that non-unification, non-independence, and non-use of force are the core of the US side's cross-strait policy. This is in line with the policy of former President Ma Ying-jeou. But whether the US really opposes the use of force, it must also be judged by the situation at the time. Therefore, to truly ensure cross-strait peace, Taiwan still cannot afford to lose sight of one another. The mainland plane crashed yesterday. Our senior management immediately expressed condolences. It's a good thing. At the same time, do not collide with the system. Only then can we expect positive interaction between the two sides of the strait. In order to avoid catastrophe. Vocabulary. Accordingly. Amend. Anti-secession. Aroused. Arrogance. Assembly. Assistance. Atmosphere. Catastrophe. Collide. Competitions. Conditions. Condolences. Conflict. Congress. Consent. Constitution. Consume. Contrary. Contrast. Conversely. Cope. Counsel. Current. Declares. Definitely. Dilemma. Do. Efforts. Ensure. Environment. Existing. Favorable. Fierce. Immediately. Increase. Indeed. Inherent. Initiative. Injured. Intended. Interaction. Intervene. Joint. Launched. Legitimacy. Obtain. Oppose. Option. Participate. Pentagon. Progressive. Prohibited. Prominent. Proposal. Propose. Proposed. Quo. Recently. Recognize. Rectification. Reduced. Refuses. Regarding. Reiterated. Rejected. Relatively. Remains. Restricting. Revealed. Role. Rush. Sacrifice. Sanction. Cession. Sovereignty. Strategy. Stressed. Strictly. Struggling. Suppressing. Territory. Terrorist. Unification. Unilateral. Vague. Violating. Withdrawn. Worthwhile.